You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 212 of Teach Better Talk. My name is Ray Heward, and as always, I am with my giggling friend. No. My giggling co-host. I'm not calling him a friend. He just happens to co-host this show, Jeff Gargan.
I was giggling. I was laughing pretty good before. I'm surprised I'm just giggling at this point. But
well, it was a better
that's what happens.
word to use. Giggle.
I don't know if you may not have. I don't know if you saw or not, but I did put out on Instagram and then on Twitter, like that I was podcasting all night with you, and I put a little meme of a guy saying "send help." So just plays perfectly into how right before we hit record here works.
That's exactly what happened.
We are just constantly apologizing to Chris Madsen, the awesome rock star who now is editing the podcast. So we have to apologize when we make it hard for him.
I know.
Which the beginning of this will be a pain.
That is the joke. Our listeners know that we apologize to Mark Heller, who people may not even know who he is. He was a guest on this podcast. You should totally go check him out. But we apologize to him all the time. And I had somebody the other day be like, who's that Mark Heller guy you guys are always talking about? Same with Chris. We talk about Chris all the time, and usually those moments get cut out of the recording because we're apologizing to Chris. But right now, this part's going to stay. So shout out to Chris. This is going to
stay. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Chris, feel free to put your Twitter image up on screen here so everyone can go follow you and connect with you.
Yeah, because if you're watching on YouTube, you can actually see Jeff and I be losers for the first 15 minutes. So put it right here. Right there. Then you just get the. I meant he could just cover both of us up with his Twitter. Oh. So they can go follow just a picture of his Twitter, a screenshot. He knows what I'm talking about. Chris,
you don't.
You could also scroll it on the bottom right here. I'm just saying that could be a thing.
Just scroll your Twitter handle the whole time. Anyway,
are we still recording?
All right. Yeah, we're still recording.
Okay, just checking.
This is gonna be great leading into this. Mm-hmm. So I want to give a shout out and highlight a review. But hopefully no one who's listening right now is going to go review this nonsense.
I know, sorry guys.
But let's do a shout out. So we're very fortunate. We have a lot of people that have left a lot of reviews, a lot of really great reviews. Yeah. And we really appreciate that. And so we've started every now and then giving a little shout out. So if you keep leaving reviews, maybe we'll shout you out. So who we got today, Ray? You got it pulled up? Yeah,
this is a person that has their label as Limbs of a Tree. Shout out to them.
I like it. Limbs of a Tree. Nice.
It's very cool, right? The title is Inspirational PD on the Go, which is already so nice, right? It says, I love that I can listen on my way to work or even the few quiet moments during the day. And few is in parentheses to imply that there are never few moments in the day. Also love how easy I can share it out with other teachers and my learning network to help others grow. Great job, guys. Keep it up. And then they made a mistake, Jeff. They said hashtag Team Ray and Jeff. I know that and Jeff was a typo. The hashtag Team Ray. And then there's a really cute smiley face, just so you know, also.
People really get away and do those accidental 7 characters.
No.
I do it all the time when I'm hashtagging.
It's an ampersand, so it's just a few characters. It's not 7.
Oh, so it's just 5. Okay, yeah. That's good. Good. Can you see my dog walking around in the background?
Tasty, of course. I love your dog.
I don't know if the video will be... It might be cut enough where we can't see it. Now she's up next to me. She's going to bother me. It's just what it is. So let's... That's great. So getting the reviews, just so you know, Ray usually takes this and goes, but I'm going to say it this time. So just so you know, we love the kind words. They mean a lot to us. But also, if you rate and review this podcast, what it actually does is it helps us then reach more people, which allows us to share these stories with more people and hopefully impact more educator classrooms, buildings, districts, and therefore students. So if you listen, and if you like us even maybe a little bit, you don't have to like us a lot, just a little bit. Even if you're actually Team Jeff, which means you must have a lower standard, you can go give us a rating review on whatever podcast platform you listen to. Apple Podcasts is where I go, and then maybe we'll give you a shout out. So it's good stuff.
I love it.
Let's keep with the awesomeness. Let's talk about our our guest. This was a great episode. So Dr. Courtney Plotts is she's a whole bunch of stuff. So she's a keynote speaker. She's an author. She's a professor. She's also the national. I'm gonna see if I get this right. She's the national chair of the Council for At-Risk Student Education and Professional Standards, and she's also a certified and licensed school psychologist. She just oozes value. Is that,
yes.
Can I say that?
You can ooze value.
You do like ooze positivity a lot. I want to go with ooze value. Like just so many little things. Her book, I think, is a really important focus, and she's got another one coming soon. Just really focused on cultural type things. I don't want to give it away the title. I want her to talk through it. But we also do a giveaway of her book, so you want to listen all the way through the episode.
Okay, that's awkward, because I was literally going to be like, guys, don't try and win the book, because I actually think I'm going to go for trying to win this book. So if you guys could
get to win, Ray.
Why can't I win? It would be fine. If I sent her my address, she would have no idea it was me. It'd be fine. I'm just going to be like...
You don't want her to sign it with your name? Just have her sign it to, like, Steve.
Oh, you're right. I don't want it signed to Steve.
Then you'd have a book on your bookshelf that said, Steve.
Never mind. Okay, I hope somebody on Twitter wins it. But could you, like, lend it to me after, friends? That would be very, very nice.
Ray, I'll buy you a copy of the book.
Oh, anyway, I have that on record. That's recorded. Thank you, friends. Thank you, Twitterverse.
Chris, cut that out. No. Cut that. No, rewind. Cut it. Okay. No, seriously, though, the book sounds fantastic. The book she's working on is coming out next. Sounds like it's going to be great, too. Really important stuff. She dropped a lot of knowledge. Really enjoyed talking. She was also just a lot of fun, which is always fun. So... anything you want to add other than the fact that you're trying to win the book? Yeah,
I mean, I'm no longer trying to win the book because Jeff's buying me my very own shiny copy. So good luck. If you end up winning the book, we should do a book study. And if you don't win the book, go grab the book and we should just do a book study. So
I like that. I feel a book study going on. I think
it'll be fun. Stuff. It's a really interesting topic, guys. I hope you enjoyed the podcast episode.
All right. With that, let's get an episode 212 with Courtney Plotts.
All right, we'll be right back with that episode, but I do want to make sure that you know that you should be listening to all the podcasts, a part of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Yes, Teach Better Talk is a fun one, and we really appreciate that you have subscribed and hopefully rated and reviewed this podcast, but we also have other podcasts that we have the opportunity to highlight over in our podcast network. Head over to teachbetter.com/podcast to see the full list.
All right, we are here and we are chatting with Courtney Plotts. And Courtney, it's so awesome to have you on the show. Appreciate you taking some time and hanging out with us tonight. And really interested to dive into your story and learn more about you and everything you have going on. Before we get too far into things, how are you feeling right now?
I feel great. I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're going to have a blast. I'm so glad you're here. Before we get started with all the fun stuff, I know that we have some good questions ahead that we want to pick your brain on. But we'd love for you to start just by kind of answering that typical question of like, hey, Courtney, like, what do you do in education?
Yeah, so I have an awesome job. I'm the national chair of the Council for At-Risk Student Education and Professional Standards, and I get to travel around, keynote, train. It's a lot of fun, but I also work on creating standards for online spaces. So pretty much, if you could think of the worst online class you've ever had, I create the policy that stops that from happening. That's
like that.
My job.
That's good. That's a good thing. You're also an author.
I am.
I'm going to take us right into that. Your book is Cultural Canyons. Can you give us sort of what's the book about? Where did it come from? Who should read it? What are we going to get out of it?
Yeah. So I did some research about online learning, and I've always been fascinated by culture. And when I looked at online learning, it was very independent. And culturally, so many cultures don't necessarily value independence. And so they value more of an interdependence. And so I started looking at community psychology, multicultural psychology. And so I built frameworks for people teaching online so that they can bring some of that culture into their classroom, whether it's academic feedback or creating assignments or creating assessment. And so I started with Latinx. That was kind of out of necessity because a lot of Hispanics serving institutions had kind of reached out and asked for some clarity. And so I wrote the book. And the next one coming out is Black Cultural Canyons. And so we'll be looking at Black cultures globally and doing the same thing. So I hope to have kind of a flow of, kind of those target populations that might be marginalized in education and some things we can do to help increase academic achievement.
Wow. That's powerful content and area and what you're trying to do there. So that's awesome. So I'll make sure that there's a link in the show notes for everyone to go grab a copy of that. And maybe we'll give one away later. We'll see.
Yeah.
I want to dive into one of my favorite questions, and that is talking about failure. One of the things that I always say is that I've been fortunate enough to fail a lot because I learned from all of those failures. Can you take us to a time, share a story with us a time that you've had a failure? Can I take us there with you? What happened? How did you overcome it? And then what did you take away from that experience?
Yeah. So 2020 is hindsight, right? So and I'm going to speak generally and then more specifically. So when I looked back at kind of my teaching career and as I moved up the ladder, whether it was dean or director or whatever, I was kind of looking at how I looked at failure as a failure. So it was kind of this, when I was failing at something, it was either this competition thing where it's like, well, so-and-so is doing this, how come you can't do it? Or it was, Courtney, you should have known better. Or it was, just whatever those kind of self-doubt things, kind of creep in. And at one point I was just like, no, failure's fine. It's the perseverance that you need to get through the failure that you need to celebrate, not be so hyper-focused on the failure. And so I remember this one time I was working on this project and I was really waiting for it to kind of like launch. I felt like, the people were right, the project was right, and it just didn't take off the way that I wanted it to. And I was so in my own feelings about it. And I was like, taking that personally, like they don't like me or they don't like something I said or something I did, where really it was just a financial thing at the time, on their part. They just didn't have the funding. And 3 years later, it came back around. So, really just not getting hyper focused on the failure, but really building that resilience piece, I think is critical.
It's so critical. I mean, get into the point where you can get yourself to be able to stop that focus on the failure and the negative feeling that comes with it, and rather reflect and find the lesson in every little challenge, every little failure. That's such an empowering thing to do. Not easy to do, but really, really powerful when you do.
Yeah. And I think failure is also like a practice, right? So some people fail once and it's so painful for them that they never get the resilience, right? So they stay hyper focused on the one failure instead of like stepping out again. And, whether it's, financial freedom or whether it's, this curriculum you've developed that you really, enjoy, there's a risk with that, right? So the risk is worth the reward in the end if you can weather the feelings, the short-term feelings, right? Because they dissipate. So
yeah, and I think when you say that, like people who maybe have such a big failure or painful failure, they then are hyper focused on not only the failure, but also like, how do I avoid this, ever feeling this way again? Like you said, then they never take those risks, so then they never feel it again. So then if they ever do have another failure, it's just as painful as that last one because they haven't built that up yet. It's a really interesting way to look at that. So let's flip it around. Let's talk about a successful moment that you've had. And this can be something big or something small, but tell us what happened, why was it a success for you, and then what did you take away from that experience?
Yeah, so when I think about what I, do for a living, I think that I'm just really fortunate to do what I do. And so I kind of see successes everywhere, right? Whether it's meeting a faculty member who's completely isolated because of this strange time in history, or whether it's making a point. Success for me, every time I see a teacher have a light bulb moment, or every time if I'm working in higher ed, I see a faculty or, a dean or director have that aha moment, that's a success to me. A lot of people who kind of look at what I do think like, oh, well, you're a success because you're on podcasts or because you're keynoting somewhere because, this, that, and the other. But if that's where I find my success, that it loses its meaning. right? That's just what people think success is. But for me, it's just that it's the moments that nobody sees. It's that faculty member who comes to you after a event and they're like, thank you so much. That made me love teaching again, or thank you so much that, it made me realize where I was struggling, or thank you so much. I never thought of something like that. Those are the successes to me. And I think, at this point in my career, it's happening so frequently that it's difficult just to say that there's one. And I think for faculty or teachers who might be struggling, we also we don't help our teachers enough look for other successes, right? So sometimes people have this one concept of what they believe is successful when there's multiple things happening around them. But again, they're hyper focused on what they believe success is. So then, they're missing out on all the successes around them.
Ugh, I couldn't agree more. It's so funny. I was just talking about this. I was on a phone call literally not an hour ago, and we were talking about this idea of failing and persevering, and then also understanding what success looks like and being able to enjoy it in the moment and just seek further successes, whether they're big or small. Holy cow, I feel like you should have been on our phone call an hour ago. What were you doing?
It's my clairvoyance.
Seriously. It's oh, I love it. So I have to know, obviously you've shared so many just beautiful pieces of insight with the work that you're doing in education right now. And, there must be something that's really fueling your fire and really excelling you forward. What is that right now? What's really keeping you excited about education?
Yeah, right now there's two things for me. It is creating community in online spaces. Because research-wise, we've only tapped into that, and it's been a very surface thing for a long time. And for the past 5 years, I've been focused on how to help people build community in online spaces and do it well, and do it so their students feel connected, their faculty feel connected to each other. And the other thing is just looking at the cultural aspects of online learning and all the things we don't think about. So for instance, here in Florida, and I spoke about this on the higher Chronicle and Higher Education webinar last week, and not to be to worry people to the point of super concern, but one of the things that I've been looking at is crisis prevention in online spaces. So one of our national training models, what it looks like is, how do you define the online space? So for instance, right now, if the two of you were my instructor and there was an emergency, you don't even know where I am. So we're not even equipping teachers to move forward with protocol in these spaces. We're just saying, hey, get on and teach. And so a month ago in Florida, right when school started, there was a mom, and she was with her elementary school kids, and she was online, and her boyfriend walked up and shot her on the camera. And so we didn't prepare teachers for that. And it's not that teachers or faculty or staff can prevent what's happening, but there's a protocol to manage what's happening. And so, again, it's the things that we don't think about. It's the kids who might be, suicidal. And so, I'm a school psychologist by trade. So all of those things that I look at, I look at with my online learning background and my clinical background. So those are the two things that have me excited. I want safer online spaces for everyone. And I want teachers to feel confident in what they're doing. And it's just a new frontier, and I'm super excited about it.
Obviously the example you shared is very scary, right? No educator necessarily heard that and was like, oh yeah, I feel totally prepared for that moment.
Right, exactly.
But I'm so appreciative still now. I mean, we've been doing so much professional development for teachers since COVID hit, and really the work that the Teach Better team, the majority of the work we do is on just instructional strategy, strategic planning, all that piece. You bringing up this other layer of safety and all these other, things that we need to consider. It's almost calming to know that somebody else is thinking about that. Somebody else is being active and getting the answers in those spaces. Because as you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, I've never thought of that. How ill prepared I am. Oh my gosh. But then there's also this moment of oh, but Courtney is leading the way to ensure that that isn't how I feel, and we can find the right solution. So I'm so glad that you're doing that work. I think that a lot of educators are hopefully listening to this and reflecting, and maybe we'll ask some of those, critical questions to continue that conversation and in their bubbles as well.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, we've had a crisis prevention intervention certification for online educators for about 4 years. So that's just been kind of amping up. So for us, it's somewhat old hat. It's just a matter of and it's really small stuff. Right. That's what I really need educators to hear, because I know you may be in that anxiety space right now where you're like, oh my gosh, like you said, I haven't thought about that. Oh my gosh. But it really is small things. So for instance, when you get those students, just reaching out to the guidance counselor and saying, hey, is there anything that I should be aware of, and highlight those students, and maybe have the school counselor, reach out and just ask those questions, how are you? What's going on? And they're doing those things anyway. It's just connecting the teacher to it. So if there's a high-flying student that you're super concerned about, that teacher's able to have that protocol ready for themselves. Whether it's, taking kids and having that breakout room ready to put other kids to the side, or whether it's really making sure that, that child is ready for maybe a large learning group, or maybe they need something smaller just because of the attention that their situation may require.
No, I think that's absolutely wonderful. I know you've kind of already shared some advice. I don't necessarily mean to put you on the spot, but there's so many different pieces of advice that we can offer educators. And you've already shared like so many just different layers and pieces of things that we should consider. But if you had educators listening right now, captive audience, right? Teach Better Talk podcast, captive audience, and you want to give them one piece of advice for them to be successful, not only for themselves, but also for their students and their families, what would your piece of advice be?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to trust what you know, and you didn't get into education to be in this space of kind of feeling stagnant, right? Or feeling that, it's you against the machine, right? So really just go back and reflect on what brought you to education in the first place, and really be honest if you've outgrown where you are. I think so many educators, because they're planners by nature, they love what they do, and sometimes they can't see, a value, in other spaces where, if you got that master's degree, really consider teaching at the college level. There's so many opportunities, and just don't forget, why you got into teaching in the first place, because I know for myself, and a lot of us do this thing where, we teach how our favorite teacher taught, and we try to be who we needed, right? And so making sure that we don't lose that in the focus of something like this really strange time in history, or, maybe something's going on at the school that's kind of out of our locus of control, but really just being present and just remembering, why we love doing what we do. And it's hard. It's hard for teachers now. And I think a lot of people don't understand, especially at the elementary. There's been so much data put into it that a lot of people are struggling to actually teach. They're managing data, and all they want to do is work with the kids, right? But they can't work with the kids because there's all these different layers. So, really understanding and teaching your parents, what it is that you do and what it is that you're responsible for. Because a lot of parents don't understand, well, why can't you just work with my kid here or there or wherever? Well, I'm managing, I don't know, thousands of layers of data a day, and keeping track. So it's hard to sometimes, when we get lost in that shuffle, remember why we're doing what we're doing. So that's what I would say.
So good.
Yes, super important advice there. Let's do something cool. Well, the whole thing is cool, but you know what I'm saying. Let's do something, another thing cool.
I love
you said you want to give away the book.
Sure.
So let's give away a copy of the book.
Cool.
What we typically do is we ask people to hit us up on Twitter or Instagram. We'll go to Twitter, I think, is where you're most active at. So we'll go to Twitter. And what typically happens, Courtney, is that I give them 16 steps that they have to do, and it's really confusing. So
okay,
we're going to allow you to do it instead. So make sure you tweet out hashtag #TeachBetter, and hashtag #TeachBetterTalk, and tag us.
Okay.
And then, Courtney, just give them a simple question that they can tweet back or tweet out for us, and then we'll pick someone to win the book.
Oh, so I tell you that now?
Yes.
Okay.
Give me anything. Something simple, though,
Something
that
simple,
they can
okay.
tweet. Not necessarily simple, but tweetable. How about that?
Tweetable. Okay. Okay. Let me think. What about, I want best advice for the new teacher. Can we do that?
Yes.
Best advice for new teacher, because I love to hear teachers' advice from people who are also new and veteran teachers.
I like it.
Right? I love that. And so I feel like any teacher, any higher ed person, anybody,
right.
they can. I like that.
I like it. All right, that's what we'll do then. So if you want to win a copy of Courtney's book, tweet out for us, and we're looking for the best advice you have for new teachers. I like that. That's a good one.
Right.
So we'll check that out on Twitter, and someone's going to get a copy of your book. All right.
Yes.
Let's keep having some fun. We're going to do the next 6 questions. Your goal is to answer each one in 15 seconds or less. Are you ready?
I think so.
All right, here we go. What is one EdTech tool you cannot live without?
Mendeley. Can't live without it.
Give us a book you're reading right now.
Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann. It's amazing.
Who do we need to follow on Twitter or Instagram today?
You can follow me. That would be fun. And also Flower Darby. She's amazing for online stuff. Fabulous.
What's a good YouTube channel website for educators?
They can go to my website, Courtney Plotts, phd.com. There's some good free resources there. Also, uscseps.org. We have a lot of free webinars there. So Teaching Connectedness was just recorded. So that's available for you, 100% free.
Give us a daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher should get into.
Oh, they got to think about their next step. You know, whether it's a small next step, meaning what am I going to do in the next 15 minutes for self-care, or whether that's a huge step, like am I going to start selling my curriculum on TPT or doing something outside of the box?
And give us the best piece of advice you've ever received.
Oh, Dr. Elizabeth Shobe, Stockton University. Give her a shout out. She is still there. She was my inspiration. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, and she said, I said, should I do social work or psych? And she said, do psych. And I said, okay, because I wanted to be just like her. And then she said, but understand that when you get your doctorate, that's just the beginning. That's not the end. And I said, okay. And I have been following that advice, you know, so, and insert any degree, right? It's not about the degree. It's just about the, you know, whatever you're doing, there's always something, you know, more if you want it.
Ooh.
Like it.
Awesome. So good. She was a natural at that. That was super speedy. That is definitely trophy worthy. You get the Teach Better Talk trophy for sure, Courtney.
Amen. I feel like I can put that on my fireplace, right? Here
Absolutely. It's huge, though.
It's way too big to fit on a fireplace. You're going to need to get a whole other house, like a barn, storage space.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Amen. Okay.
Yeah. But it'll be really great because that'll be like an opportunity for you to, take pictures of it and show it to your friends when they come over. Like, of course, that'll be exciting.
Right. It's so awesome. It cannot be managed by the Twittersphere.
It's true.
Or Facebook. That's how big it is. It's amazing.
Courtney, I want to make sure that our listeners can stay connected to you, not only in hopes that they win a copy of your book, but also just the amazing work that you're doing to stay up to speed on what that is and how they can get involved. Would you mind sharing how they can stay connected?
Yeah, no, not at all. You can follow me on @Courtney_Plotts on Twitter. And I have to tell you guys a funny story. I don't really do social media, but once I published the book, my publisher was like, you kind of have to do it. And I was like, and they're like, no, you kind of have to do it. So forgive me if I don't like rattle everything off like I should. And then, you can go to my website, like I said, CourtneyPlotts.phd.com, and you can go to uscseps.org, and we always have announcements on things that are going on. I'm super excited because our national certification program is going to Auburn University at Montgomery, so we just got that news today, so we're super excited about that. And I'm just happy to connect with anybody, and the Zoomosphere moves fast, so I'm excited to see who kind of comes through.
Loving it. You can find all the links and resources, everything we mentioned in this episode over at teachbetter.com, as well as the really important links for connecting with Courtney and keeping this conversation going. So head over to the show notes over at teachbetter.com for all of that. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And if you can give us that rating and review, we'd really appreciate that as well. And let's keep taking this just one step further. Think of just 3 of your colleagues who need to hear these amazing stories and connect with these amazing educators and share this podcast with them. Courtney, this was awesome. So much value in this episode. So excited for people to listen to it and take away value from it. Really appreciate you hanging out with us and just giving us some of your time. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time and always ready to connect. So thank you.
Until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.